Hello, everyone. So my name's Harvinder. I'm from the UK, and my company is Motix. And we're all about bringing physiotherapy into the digital era. And our story really starts in 2014 with my father. So he was diagnosed with sciatica, and it's a really common condition, causes pain in the legs, and needs daily physiotherapy. Now, it took him 2 months to get an appointment to see a physiotherapist here, after which he was seen twice over 2 weeks and then discharged with a sheet of paper, just like this one. And this is the standard of care in the UK, where the majority of patients are expected their physiotherapy remotely at home with no supervision, so they don't know if they're doing it correctly. And it's a huge issue because 70% of patients never do their exercises. And given that that constitutes about 10 million patients in the UK every single year, it's a huge issue because these patients never fully recover, their injuries get worse, and they come back to the health systems again and again. But it's not just an issue for patients, it's an issue for physios as well. They struggle to get patients to do their exercises. And even when they do, they can't accurately measure how well these patients are improving over time. And then I noticed something. I came home from university one weekend and saw this. So this is my father, who'd set up Nintendo Wii at home and was using it for his physiotherapy. And it got me thinking, how can we use what's fantastic about Nintendo Wii and turn it into something that's incredibly useful for physiotherapy as well? And that's what Motix is. Motix is a wearable solution which engages patients and provides actionable insight into muscle function. And we do that through a unique combination of hardware and software. Our hardware consists of compression sleeve technology with two types of sensors that measure muscle function and stimulate muscle activity. And we combine that with our unique gamified approach so that whilst you're doing your physiotherapy, you're actually just playing games. And on top of that, we have advanced data analytics, which give us the ability to give you a predicted recovery date, so you know exactly when you're going to be better by. Tailored gamification, so the games are tailored exactly for you to help speed up your recovery. And progress tracking, so you see exactly how well you're improving over time. And this is what the platform looks like in action. So what we can see here is real-time analysis of muscle function. So Katarina's got a forearm injury, so she's doing her exercises here, and we can see exactly how well each of the muscles in her forearm is working. And we tailor the game on the fly so that we focus on the muscles that need the most improvement over time. And last year, we ran a 10-week trial. We showed a 250% improvement in muscle strength alone, fourfold improvement in engagement, halving a predicted recovery time, and a third reduction in pain symptoms. So we clearly feel like we're onto something here. And the value for us isn't just for the patients, but for the physios as well. In the national healthcare system here, the current waiting list is now 8 weeks after the coronavirus lockdown. For them, they can help get more patients through the system by engaging and enabling the majority of patients to be managed remotely. For the private healthcare system here, they also suffer from long waiting lists and they can't do physiotherapy in person at the moment. So by enabling and using our platform, they can do so effectively and remotely, helping them to increase their revenue streams. For the patient, it's all about that faster recovery, which is what we offer, the engaging experience that we have, and the ability to see their progress over time. And the market size. So globally, the market is valued about £160 billion, with our initial go-to-market is the private physiotherapy market in the UK and Ireland, which is valued at £1.5 billion of that. And the current competition focuses on being either measurable or engaging. And the current standard of care is neither, whereas we're completely in a league of our own. And to that extent, we've partnered with Imperial College London, with two world-class professors of bioengineering assisting us in our research and development to help us create an offering which will truly change the world. And our business model. So we're initially focusing on a B2B approach, where we're going to the patients through private physiotherapists. We offer the device free of charge, initial point of care, with a monthly SaaS model thereafter. And we're able to achieve this because of our low device manufacturing costs. And thus far, we've already got 15 physiotherapy clinics on board, representing about 1,500 patients in both the UK and Ireland as well. These have been with us since our software beta, our remote physiotherapy appointments, which we've been offering since June this year, and they're going to be using our hardware from next month, which we're incredibly excited about. And my background. So I'm now a qualified doctor. It's great to say that finally, after 6 years. So I qualified in March. I've also got a bachelor's degree in bioengineering. I'm a keen coder. I taught myself since the age of 16, and that's what I spend a lot of my time at MOSIX doing. And I also worked at a different startup focusing on stroke rehabilitation. And we're focusing about the psychology and how to get patients to engage with their stroke recovery. And the motivation for me is deeply personal. As I've said, my father was the reason why we really started this company. We started back at the beginning of 2019, and I'd hoped that he'd be able to use the product to help with his recovery over time. Unfortunately, he passed away at the beginning of 2020, and he never got to see what we were building and the direction that we were going in. And it's been incredibly tough to come back from that this year. But what really gets me out of bed in the morning is thinking about that how I'm doing this for him. This company, his legacy, is what I really hope to leave behind, so that no one else has to suffer with the pain of physiotherapy, and they can get back to normal as fast as possible. And during my time in medicine, I've had the opportunity to do many different things, getting involved in army officer training, doing academic research, and even starting a different initiative focusing on teaching coding skills to doctors to innovate for healthcare. But with all of those, I came back to the same fundamental question. How can I have the most impact? How can I use my unique skill set to truly change the world? And that's where I believe MOSIX comes in. Because physical therapy isn't a local problem, it's a global one. The US and the UK are the first countries to really experience the issue, where in the US, the problem is actually compounded because there's also the opioid crisis. And the root cause of the opioid crisis is actually poor adherence to physiotherapy in parts, with 50% of patients with chronic pain prescribed opioids rather than prescribed physiotherapy. So what we hope to do is to enable a chunk of those patients to be shifted to effective physiotherapy care rather than opioid treatment. In Africa and Asia, these countries are going to experience the same issues, as we've seen with the obesity epidemic. What we've seen is the urbanization and commoditization of fast food, which leads to actually now almost 1 in 3 in Africa at risk of becoming obese. And obesity goes hand in hand with physical therapy requirement. So by solving these issues in the US and the UK, we prepare the world to be ready for a new model of physiotherapy in the future. And there are lots of challenges in the startup, obviously, as I'm sure everyone here knows. And the one that I love to talk about is how 70% of hardware companies never reach the manufacturing stage, whereas we've done so, and I believe with grace as well. And I think that's a testament to the power of our team. We've got an incredible team with diverse backgrounds from medicine, engineering, and business. An incredibly fantastic team of mentors as well, who've got a wealth of industry experience working alongside us to achieve our mission. And that's to help everyone, from the young to recover that bit faster after an injury, to the elderly just looking to walk again. Our vision is to help the world to be stronger, faster. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Power, as I should call you, the great presentation. And thank you for doing what you're doing for the world. It's a great cause. We've got 10 minutes of Q&A, and for whoever wants to get it started. Derek.
Great presentation, and so sorry for your loss this year with your dad. I would love to know how you're thinking about building your team and what are the things you're looking for. It sounds like, you know, it's a really, you know, it's a very technical product, and so you kind of probably need to get the right people, the best people in to be part of that. How are you thinking about that, and who would those kinds of people be that you're looking for?
Exactly right. It's a fantastic question. And our initial focus is twofold, actually. So we've got the hardware and the software. So there's two key streams to what we do. A lot of the software that we actually needed has now been developed in-house, which we're actually quite proud to say. And our main focus really is on actually driving down the cost of the hardware, because our strategy as we go forward is on improving access to physiotherapy. And that's part one of our sort of global sort of strategy. So to do that, we're really focused on bringing in really great hardware engineers who are able to think outside the box and help lower that device cost. Because the biggest challenge that physiotherapists have with getting new devices is that they're actually incredibly expensive. And the majority cost £1,000 plus, which is a huge barrier to entry. So what we want to do is create ourselves as sort of focus as being a really low cost, but really effective approach. So our initial focus is hardware engineers, which we've got a few in mind, some PhD students that we've worked with in the past, and then software engineers thereafter to really refine the offering that we can give there.
Jason from EO Hong Kong.
Great presentation, Harvinder. I wanted to ask you, can you share an experience with us when you had to face a difficult challenge in your business, and what did you do to pivot and adapt? How did you do it?
Great question. And I think as many other companies will experience, I think it has been recently the coronavirus lockdown. So in the UK, they actually announced that all physiotherapy clinics had to shut. And so all private physiotherapy had to cease during lockdown, which was back in March. So all the clients that we had, those 15 clinics, had to actually completely stop operations. And it was a huge issue for us because we'd gotten really into the flow, we'd really engaged them, they were really excited about the products. And we thought about, okay, how can we really help them? Because we thought, this is a collaborative relationship. We need to work with them so that we can both benefit from it. And it then led us to actually pivot into remote consultations. So we actually developed our video consultation platform in 10 days, and we helped to deploy that to these clinics to help keep them operational. And it was a very tough time because actually that was the middle of my medical school finals as well, as a personal side note. And it was all about thinking about how can we really provide value at such a tough time, and the world is such a strange place, how can we really help them to stay functional and to help their patients? So it was a lot of late nights, a lot of thinking, a lot of Zoom meetings, obviously. But I'm quite proud to say that I think we did quite well coming out of that.
Dave Loney.
Yeah, great presentation. And again, my condolences on your father. Question for you regarding the IP for your device. I think it's an amazing idea, and I'm just wondering, with how you're working with existing platforms, how you're able to do that, and whether you've thought of your IP side of it.
Great question. So we've consulted quite a few different patent attorney firms, and we've done our initial scoping pattern, and we've got 2 key domains in which we're actually looking to file IP. I can't go too much into the details, but I can say it's primarily in the hardware, and there's actually some in systems architecture that we've actually created something novel in. And so we've identified these areas that are actually that give us freedom to operate. And actually, we believe that it's enough for us to do in fact, all our business operations without any issues of IP overhead. But yeah.
Hugo from EO Monterey.
Hi, thank you, Harvinder. Great presentation. I just want to ask you, because most of the time when you go to take out a problem with your body, like you're a therapist, how do you work in your program with your mind? It's very clearly that you have all the technology, but how do you work with the mind of the patient? Thank you.
That's a fantastic question, because as I said, a lot of the work that I did previously was on psychology, and it's a huge part of recovery and often really overlooked, actually. So in our software offering, we actually get to know the patients, and one of the biggest things we're quite proud of is our onboarding experience and our new one that we're bringing with our hardware, where we actually get to know what's important to the patient and what matters to them. And we're all about tailoring the experience so that it suits the patients to get them to a stage where they're happy to get to. We set the realistic goals of where they actually can be getting to, and we help to sort of basically keep them all in the loop. And it acts in a very similar way to CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, where we talk about how they're feeling about their recovery, what they're frustrated about, and start to work through them. Because as we say, psychology is a huge part of recovery, and it's one that we are proud to say that we've integrated into our platform.
Thank you.
David Preston from EO Charlotte.
Great presentation, Dr. Power. Congratulations, and condolences on your father. Curious on your go-to-market strategy. Has COVID impacted how you're selling to your customers, and has it created a long-term pivot for you on how you're going to market?
Great question. I think in many ways, the way I like to think of it, it's actually accelerated our timelines in many ways. What we found when we initially tried to go to market earlier this year is that some physiotherapists are a bit reluctant about taking on a new technology because they'd had experiences with older technology and they thought it was sort of gimmicky in their experiences. We then took the time to sit them down, walk them through the platform. And then obviously with coronavirus happening, they then realized that actually this technology is the only way they can stay operational in some cases and to offer a really effective approach remotely. So as tough a time as it has been, I think it's been quite beneficial for us to really think about how can we enable completely remote first care. And I think it's actually accelerated some of our timelines, especially with our adoption, because actually our hardware is about to launch next month, which we're really excited about.
Amresh from India.
Harv, great presentation. Sorry for your loss. I love the way you clearly articulated your problem statement and how we're going about solving it. Quick question. Have you done your homework on whether there are others in different markets, maybe not in the UK, but maybe in the US and elsewhere in Europe that are doing something similar? And if you could leverage either their solution or pieces of their technology?
Fantastic question. And 100% there are competitors and they do have similar technology to us. The one big driver, and I didn't allude to it properly, I think, is that actually we're doing it at a much lower cost than all the competition. So there are a couple of competitors I can think of directly, and I think the name actually eludes me, but there is one in the US which is doing similar approach to the compression technology, I know, which may be the one you might be referencing. The issue that we've had, and we've done a lot of research on them and looking at their problem, their sort of model and how they've gone to market, is that they've had low adoption because they're pricing their devices so high. And actually, it's been quite interesting to see that and a bit of an eye-opener. So when we looked at it and did our research again in both the US and the UK, we found that actually the lower cost devices were actually tended to be far better adopted because actually it enables scalability. So that's our approach. And we've learned from the other companies in this space and said, we're not going to be the all stars and absolutely all bells and whistles on it, but we're going to offer the best experience to the patients at the lowest possible cost.
Lynn.
Great presentation, very articulate, and so sorry for your loss. My question is, where do you see yourself in 1 year, 5 years? Are you a practicing physician or an entrepreneur building a company?
Entrepreneur, 100%. And the reason why I'm so confident about that is that I've spent time practicing both as a medical student and as a junior doctor. And I've seen the impact that you can have on patients as a doctor. And I've seen the impact that you can have on patients as an entrepreneur. And whilst I was never fully exposed to it in my early time medical school, I think my time as an entrepreneur has really opened my eyes to how we can actually truly impact the world on a much larger scale, how we can affect the millions and billions of people rather than the few people you have time to see every day as a doctor. And I'm incredibly inspired to say that, I now want to be an entrepreneur as my full-time career.
Any last questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Power. This is a great presentation. You've got a great vision for the future. Really proud of what you're doing. Thank you for the good you're doing in the world.
Thank you, everyone.